Have you ever questioned if companionship is truly necessary after reaching the age of 70? This inquiry might seem surprising, perhaps even slightly jarring. Throughout our lives, we've internalized the idea that friendships are fundamental to well-being. But what if this isn't the whole picture? Could releasing certain social ties actually simplify your existence, making it freer and more deeply satisfying? Today, I will outline 6 compelling arguments for why embracing self-reliance might unlock a more contented life post-70. And there's an interesting aspect to consider. The 4th point could fundamentally alter your perspective on solitude. Please stay with me, as this might represent the most significant mental adjustment as you enter your prime later years. You are no longer obligated to validate yourself to others. For a significant portion of your existence, you've participated in a specific societal expectation. Consider this. From an early age, you learned that respect, value, and acceptance required constant demonstration of your merit. You dedicated effort to advancing a career, you cultivated friendships to belong. You adopted specific attire, chose words carefully, and adhered to established norms. You invested decades ensuring others perceived you as competent, accomplished, and agreeable. Yet, here's a reality seldom spoken of. A point arrives in life where participation in this game is no longer required. At 70 and older, you have navigated life, established your legacy, and conquered difficulties. Seeking external validation or proving your worth is unnecessary. Consider the narrative of Michael, whose life revolved around seeking validation. Allow me to introduce Michael, an individual who dedicated 40 years to ascending the professional hierarchy. He frequented industry gatherings, exchanging pleasantries and engaging in superficial conversation. He nurtured relationships with work associates, always ensuring amicable standing. He wore costly suits, operated a high-end vehicle, and meticulously presented the image of a prosperous individual. Externally, he appeared to possess everything: a reputable profession, an extensive social network, and a standing as a person of consequence. However, retirement arrived, altering the landscape dramatically. Professional communications ceased. Social invitations dwindled. Connections that once appeared robust dissolved rapidly. Initially, Michael felt adrift. He pondered, should I reconnect? Should I attempt to sustain these bonds? Then a profound insight struck him. The majority of those connections lacked authenticity. They were founded on practicality, mutual professional objectives, and social standing, rather than genuine affinity. Consequently, Michael made a firm choice. Rather than pursuing bygone friendships, he opted to welcome his autonomy. He retrieved his disused fishing equipment and dedicated mornings to the lakeside. He took up gardening, finding straightforward enjoyment in observing plant life flourish. Each day began without the burden of needing to impress anyone. And for the first instance in many years, Michael experienced an unfamiliar sensation: authentic liberty. How does this apply to you? Now, permit me to inquire, are you maintaining friendships because they genuinely enrich your life, or is it due to a sense of obligation? Because the reality is this: an extensive social network isn't required to affirm your identity. At this juncture in life, your credentials are well established. Attending functions merely for visibility is unnecessary. Perpetuating draining friendships is not required. Seeking affirmation from those who lack genuine concern is redundant. You have merited the privilege of living according to your own preferences, and that, above all else, embodies true freedom. Opt for tranquility over obligatory social functions. 2 distinct weekends, which aligns more with your preference. Option 1, it's Saturday morning and your phone is active. An invitation arrives for lunch with a long unseen acquaintance. But does the prospect of hours spent exchanging trivial updates truly appeal? Later that day, a family function awaits involving protracted conversations that feel monotonous and depleting. As evening approaches, another call comes through. Someone requires assistance, someone needs to unload their thoughts, someone lays claim to your time. By day's end, you feel intellectually weary, emotionally depleted, and secretly yearn for the sanctuary of home. Now envision this alternative. Option 2. You awaken to a peaceful Saturday morning. No demands, no commitments, no compulsory dialogues. You prepare a comforting cup of coffee, settle into your preferred armchair, and delve into a book you've intended to read. You attune to the birdsong outside, inhale deeply, and savor the quietude. The entire day unfolds before you, uniquely yours to utilize as you wish. Which of these weekend scenarios resonates more deeply with you? Why do priorities evolve with age? During youth, we absorb the lesson that social engagement is paramount for happiness. We cram our schedules with gatherings, celebrations, and incessant dialogues. We sustain relationships, occasionally even when they feel unbalanced or taxing. We agree to commitments out of perceived duty, not desire. Yet as maturity progresses, a transformation occurs. We begin recognizing that serenity holds far greater worth than superfluous social interaction. This isn't about severing ties, it's about selecting what genuinely nurtures your inner self, the liberty to decline. Consider Elizabeth, a 74-year-old widow who once packed her agenda with social engagements. She presumed constant activity would fend off loneliness. However, with time, she observed a pattern. Many of these events felt more like duties than pleasures. The discussions were repetitive, laden with idle talk and familiar anecdotes recounted countless times. She frequently departed these encounters feeling depleted rather than enriched. One day she posed a question to herself. What if I ceased agreeing out of guilt? What if I exclusively dedicated time to individuals who genuinely uplifted me? Thus, she enacted a straightforward yet profoundly altering resolution. She stopped compelling herself to participate in gatherings devoid of peace. She favored quiet strolls over boisterous coffee meetings. She selected literature over enervating conversations. She prioritized her well-being above societal expectations. And the outcome, she didn't experience loneliness, she felt emancipated. Serenity is not solitude, it's liberty. Numerous individuals harbor the fear that reduced socializing equates to isolation. Yet the reality is that peace and loneliness differ significantly. Loneliness stems from being amidst people who fail to truly comprehend you. Peace arises from choosing solitude and experiencing utter contentment. Now, the decision rests with you. Will you persist in filling your time with draining social duties, or will you welcome the autonomy of selecting peace? Because beyond 70, your time is your own. Guard your time. Your most precious resource. Time perception alters as one matures. In youth, time seemed boundless. The assumption was always that another opportunity existed to connect with friends, another weekend available for family visits, ample future moments for desired pursuits. Consequently, dispensing time freely occurred without second thought. Days were occupied with work, obligations, and social functions, sometimes from obligation, sometimes from routine. Affirmative responses were common because then, time felt limitless. However, now, past 70, a shift occurs. Time is perceived anew. The realization dawns that time is no longer a commodity to squander, but a possession to safeguard. Each hour, each instant gains unprecedented value. The finite nature of time becomes clear. Why then permit others to dictate its expenditure? Despite this, many persist in allocating their time generously. The account of Richard, perpetually occupied yet unfulfilled. Richard maintained constant motion. Even post-retirement, the habit of staying busy lingered. His days were filled with luncheons, telephone conversations, and appointments. He consistently agreed to social requests irrespective of his inclination. He convinced himself that activity equated to happiness. Yet inwardly, a sense of disquiet persisted. One day, seated at a bustling dinner event, absorbing yet another familiar conversation, a sudden insight struck him. Why am I engaging in this? Am I genuinely finding enjoyment in my time, or am I merely avoiding deceleration? That evening, rather than scheduling further engagements, Richard acted differently. The following morning, he prepared coffee, positioned himself on his porch, and simply observed the sunrise. For the first occasion in years, he permitted himself inactivity. In that interval, he understood tranquility surpassed noise and fulfillment. Silence held more value than idle chat. Protecting his time afforded him the liberty he had long lacked. What is your situation? How frequently do you consent to activities you don't truly relish? How often is your time consumed by obligations instead of pursuits bringing genuine joy? If returning from a social event leaves you feeling exhausted rather than replenished, perhaps it's time for introspection. For whom am I truly allocating my time? Myself or others? Because the reality is, you owe no one your time. Squandering it on matters lacking relevance is unnecessary. You've earned the prerogative to determine your daily schedule. Once you commence safeguarding your time, a remarkable transformation unfolds. The feeling of being hurried dissipates. The sense of obligation vanishes. Freedom emerges. Life doesn't diminish when you decelerate, it deepens. The pertinent question thus becomes, how will you opt to protect your time moving forward? The paramount relationship is with oneself. Societal narrative versus authentic truth. For much of your existence, the message conveyed was that a greater number of friends correlates with increased happiness. Remain social, maintain a full schedule. Solitude equates to loneliness. Surrounding yourself with people is essential. Lacking a large friend group signifies a void in life. But does this hold true? As age advances, a pattern emerges. Certain friendships diminish. Some individuals only initiate contact when requiring assistance. Certain conversations feel more like duties than genuine interactions. Then one day the question arises, if surrounded by numerous people, why does depletion persist? Here lies an unspoken truth. Happiness isn't contingent on the quantity of surrounding individuals. It hinges on the degree of inner peace experienced. The most crucial relationship you will ever nurture is the one with yourself. The journey of Eleanor from apprehension to liberation. Eleanor, a 76-year-old widow, once held the conviction that being alone signified loneliness. For years, she occupied her days with phone calls to old acquaintances even when disinclined to converse, luncheons and gatherings merely to preserve appearances, constant check-ins on others despite reciprocal neglect. This, she believed, was the path to contentment. Yet, truthfully, exhaustion often prevailed. She discerned that many friendships had devolved into routines, lacking substantive connection. Following another conversation that left her feeling void, she pondered, what if I ceased attempting to fill time with people and instead dedicated time to myself? Consequently, she undertook an initially intimidating action. She welcomed her own presence. She initiated solitary morning walks, appreciating the surrounding world's splendor. She frequented cafes with literature instead of dialogue, discovering a preference for it. She revived a long-neglected pastime, painting purely for enjoyment. The outcome? For the first instance in her existence, she felt genuinely content. She grasped that solitude didn't equate to loneliness, it signified freedom. Implications for you. Now is the moment for self-reflection. Are you associating with people because they genuinely contribute to your happiness, or is it merely due to a fear of solitude? Do your friendships feel substantial and rewarding, or do they seem like obligations requiring maintenance? When did you last spend time solely with yourself and derive pleasure from it? Because the reality is, a crowd isn't necessary to feel complete. Constant social interaction isn't requisite for happiness. Validating your worth through the quantity of friends is unnecessary. The premier friendship, the one impervious to fading, disappointment, or departure, is the one cultivated with yourself. Loneliness versus solitude, discerning the distinction. Many conflate being alone with loneliness, yet they differ fundamentally. Loneliness is experiencing emptiness, even amidst others. Solitude is experiencing peace even when unaccompanied. The key difference: loneliness signifies an absence of self-connection. Solitude signifies the presence of inner harmony. Grasping this alters everything. Your existence, your decision, you've invested decades giving to, caring for, and supporting others. Perhaps now is the time for self-support. Allocate time to activities yielding happiness. Cultivate enjoyment of your own company. Discard the notion that a packed social agenda is essential for fulfillment. When the pursuit of happiness shifts from external sources to internal discovery, it is found within, and that, above all, embodies true peace. Elizabeth's narrative prior to detachment. Elizabeth embodied sociability for the majority of her life. She was the type who diligently remembered birthdays, consistently responded to calls, and invariably accepted invitations. Her schedule remained perpetually occupied: luncheons, group functions, family assemblies, coffee engagements. She subscribed to the belief that busyness equated to connection. Yet as time progressed, she began perceiving discrepancies. Some friendships felt unbalanced. She consistently initiated contact, while reciprocity was infrequent. Certain gatherings induced depletion rather than elevation. Some dialogues were saturated with idle talk, grievances, or negativity. Nonetheless, she persisted. She rationalized, "These are my companions, my kin. Departure isn't an option." Yet profoundly, she harbored an unacknowledged sentiment: exhaustion. Her formerly gratifying social existence had metamorphosed into a sequence of duties, a roster of compelled actions rather than desired ones, until a specific day instigated change. The pivotal moment. One afternoon, Elizabeth found herself at a luncheon, absorbing familiar conversations repeated numerous times. An individual lamented about their offspring, another relayed gossip concerning a former neighbor. A further acquaintance reiterated personal difficulties, neglecting to inquire about Elizabeth's well-being. For the inaugural instance, a thought surfaced that she had previously suppressed. Why am I present? Is this genuinely enjoyable? This notion induced terror, signifying acknowledgement that perhaps conceivably detachment was timely. Elizabeth's narrative post-detachment. Consequently, she made a resolution. She ceased consenting due to guilt. She prioritized tranquility above obligation. She permitted herself to relinquish connections lacking current relevance. Initially, the change felt peculiar. Apprehension surfaced. Will others perceive me as self-centered? Guilt accompanied declined invitations. Uncertainty lingered regarding potential loneliness. However, an unforeseen development occurred. She began relishing her own presence. Are you genuinely opting for happiness or merely resisting transformation? Because the truth is, you are deserving of peace. You are deserving of freedom. You merit spending time with individuals who elevate, not deplete you. Express your views. Now, I invite your input. What specific element from this discussion resonated most profoundly with you? Have you previously relinquished a friendship that felt incongruous? Are you prepared to prioritize peace over obligation? Or does the concept of releasing certain relationships still present a challenge? Please comment below to share your reflections. Your viewpoint might offer encouragement to others navigating similar paths. Engage with this community. If this presentation offered a fresh perspective, please indicate approval with the like button. This aids in disseminating the message more widely. Subscribe to ensure you don't miss subsequent insightful lessons. Activate notifications as your optimal years lie ahead, and I aim to assist in their full realization. Your happiness rests within your control. The decision is yours. Will you opt to maintain attachments, or will you liberate yourself? I look forward to our next interaction.